You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Chris Gillis. What vulnerability really looks like. Are these mistakes ruining your chances with the great guys? Ladies, welcome. I literally had to drive miles to get my coffee this morning before we could talk about Bachelor in Paradise and the great switch, which is low-key Casa Amor. Which it's so funny. I was Googling some stuff, Chris. I'm here with Chris, by the way. And on the internet, they're calling it Casa Amor. They're like, Paradise does Casa Amor. It's just so funny. And Reality Reina was like, it's kind of funny because in Mexico, it actually is Casa Amor.
Yeah.
That's right. Like it really is Casa Amor because they're in Mexico. But it's so funny. The thing that's really interesting, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, is if you watch Love Island or if you don't, the premise is that is a 12-week show. And by the time they do this switch where you're dating someone for like 6 or 7 weeks, and then you get tested by meeting someone else, this in the Bachelor set is about maybe a week, right? Like 5-7 days at the most, maybe 8. And now they're saying, we're going to split you up.
Yeah. That's what it is. Like Serena's a lot of pushback saying, it's kind of bullshit that they only get to be there for 3 to 4 weeks time and they spend 1 week of it away from their honey. With that said, she was extremely lucky and kind of BS, I think, as well, because at least Love Island does a good, they're making sure people aren't talking to themselves. They're not in this, hooking up at Stagecoach and already have these little pseudo mini relationships. So she's kind of bullshit. She walked in with already the dude that, of her dreams and where everybody else didn't but have that luxury. But it doesn't make sense. You're a quarter of the time. That's a long time to be away from, the guy to really.
Oh my God, totally. And, my reality reviewer crush, Allie from the New York Times Vulture was talking about how, this is just really challenging for them because they have been there for a short time. But also she was like, remember when on Paradise, the drama was that we found out someone talked to somebody else before the show?
Yeah.
That used to be like really sneaky and like not allowed. And I think that whatever they've done, they decided to create some kind of plot twist. It's kind of lame in my opinion before we get into the dating piece about there's so many things you could create to do something that's been done on another show to the point where that's what people are referring to as kind of lame. Bachelor producers drink some more Red Bull and think of something better. However, it has cranked up the drama. So totally. I think the first thing I want to talk about is even before the old switcheroo. Because I was watching it. I got to watch it with some friends. And we have to talk about Michael A., who lost his wife 4 years ago. Bachelor producers really don't want him to go home. So they threw in this woman, Danielle, who he had been talking to on Instagram. And their common connection is they both lost somebody. Danielle lost her fiance 11 years ago to suicide. Michael A. lost his wife to breast cancer 4 years ago. I'm just saying that because I think what's really interesting is, and the question is, and we saw Gabby do this with Jason, is going on a date and figuring out your greatest tragedy and loss and just literally making that be the foundation of the connection on the first date. And I think I was cringing, like he would not let it go. So, and I let you put it in the notes. We're talking about some of this, literally the words he used were like, I don't know. I don't think they're a turn on. So what do you think about that? Like going on a date and finding the common ground being some kind of trauma or tragedy that you went through?
I think it's such an easy cool to grasp onto, because we're always talking about Marni. You're like, hey, we're screaming at them. They're not talking about anything, and fucking get to some meat and potatoes of what life is like and who you really are. And it's interesting, how it's so easy to grasp and talk about that, and just have that be your personality. But I guess is that truly being vulnerable? Maybe we need to workshop our definition of dating vulnerability, because is talking about is going from being this very, what's your favorite color or whatever the dumb shit they talk about, to the opening up your heart and then crying like, oh God, is that really what you want to be talking about? And yes, it is a big something, a part of your life. Or do IV drip that vulnerability? Or is there really a definition when we talked about what it means to be vulnerable? Is that actual vulnerability? I don't think
that's what I was talking about. Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was watching this with Jill, our friend Jill, and her friend Rich, who's like a grown-ass man, and then their daughter and some people in their 30s. And what I said, and this was the conversation we had, I was like, trauma dumping is not vulnerability. Trauma dumping, and this is what I think Michael A. does, is that is his identity. Mm-hmm. And I think he actually hides behind that story. He uses that as a cover-up to actually be vulnerable. He tells that story. It's who he is. It's like his, it's almost like his, rank and serial number, like, this is who I am. Let me tell you the story. Women feel compelled typically to like jump in and have this pseudo intimacy because they perceive it as vulnerability. And it sets the whole thing off the track. What's interesting about Danielle, is she's 11 years out and he's 4 years out. Yeah. And I think it was so evident at the get-go that she has processed her grief to the point where she used one of my favorite lines or comments when you're talking about something like that, which I think she said as a way to move out of that conversation. And he did not pick it up, which is the second time he did not pick up the lob that was served to him. She says, sometimes I feel guilty because without that experience, I wouldn't become who I am today and have the life I am today, which he would have said, wow, how have you grown? What's your life like today? Who are you now? Anything about the future or who she is now. Yeah. And what did he do? He's like, wow, I really give you a lot of credit for me, And she even said, like, are you looking for another Laura? I mean, literally, ladies, like, this woman was collecting data. She was like, you're cute. And yes, that is what got us together. But are you healthy enough to have a relationship? And I could just see in her eyes, she was like, when you go on a date and you're like, no, oh, no, shit. No, this one is not stacking up. You can just see it, right?
Yep. Leave that pizza in the oven. He's not ready yet. You just kind of had a little aha moment. A few episodes back, we talked about vulnerability and being in dating and standing in that middle of that in that open space, and having and courageously stepping and leaping and saying something or doing something, not knowing if it's going to fail miserably or if met with applause. Michael A., I hate to say it, buddy, no one's gonna boo you. Someone said I hate to say it, but it's manipulative. Look, hand to God, I've done that before in relationships, and I banged the trigger, and it works, and it looks like vulnerability. It's like with a poor man's version. Yes, there's tears, all these things, but I know how it's gonna turn out. So it's not actually brave or courageous of him. So boom, sorry, buddy. That's not vulnerable.
Yeah, not vulnerable. And what's funny is I think I got so triggered because literally this is how I ended up falling for my ex-husband. Literally, the first date, he tells me the story about how his brother died, his dad died, like all of these. And I wrote about it in my book. And I put my hand on his knee and my brain was like, I will fix you. I will help you. like, like, oh, you're my favorite type. You're fucked up. Let me. And in the end, my ex-husband was emotionally unavailable, right? And I spent that whole relationship trying to get him to, love me, to think I was, it's like a hook, right?
Yeah.
And I think that for Michael A., and for anyone who is on either side of that scenario, we have those manimal archetypes, and I call that guy the crybaby.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he like is so, you think he's so self-aware, you think he's in touch with his emotions, right? But it's just really like a ploy or an armor that looks good. It's a good armor, right? To attract people in. And when he says like, I can only date someone who's scarred. What did you think of that? What did you think of that? Because I'm going to tell you what the conversation was in the room I was in.
I cringed.
Go ahead. What did you think?
I cringed.
You cringed, right?
I pulled back like a cat that's like, oh, oh no, it didn't all get me away. And I think I like looked over it at Emily and I was like, did you hear that shit? Oh my God. And I think I paused it and rewound it again. And I wrote something else down. And he said in the note about, like needing to date somebody who's better than him or improves him. I'm like, good night.
Yeah, it's not sexy. And so then in my room, Rich was like, well, everyone's scarred, right? I was like, right. We're all scarred. But we don't say like, I want to date. Like, you don't go into dating going, I want to find someone as fucked up as me. Like, what? You know what I mean? So this guy is really, and I agree. I read a little bit of tea that Sierra is pissed.
Yeah.
Right? Like here he's like, oh, I'm not ready for a relationship, right? And then he goes on this date and he's like, oh, no. But we know what's going to happen. Well, actually, I think Danielle is not going to be into him. Like, she's going to either say, like, you need to get your shit together. I'm not going to sit here and talk about our dead lovers for the rest of my life. Right. Or she's just going to go find someone. Because 11 years is a long time. And she's obviously done a lot of work. She's obviously, like, been in. And what I love, too, is, like, she's obviously been in like a brief recovery or in a group because she's like asking him really good questions, like, are you looking like these are the symptoms, you're looking to replace your lover. You blah, 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 blah. So I just really think that, that there's a big difference between telling your sad tale and being vulnerable. And we talked about last week, I had a client who would just tell her sad tale. To push people away, and so it's not vulnerability. So I think that one is going to go by the wayside.
Right. And I think kind of sum it up. Yeah. You, when you're on a date, you want to make sure that person's dating you and not your trauma. Cause in the end right now, she knows very little about him. And same thing with Sierra. It seems from what we saw and when that person's, like you said, their armor is their trauma because it gets so much, a care and love. And I'm so sorry to hear that. Right. And you never really get to, okay, well, who am I? Who is this guy as a person? So she doesn't even know who the fuck he is yet. And if she's going to get along with him. So right. You're right. The deck right now, he's just another random dude who has got a similar trauma that she has, that they can talk about that for hours and it feels great. But in the end, you don't want to date your therapist. It's not going to end well.
Exactly.
It's going to make you pay for it in the end. We talked about that in some of my men coaching stuff I've done. In the end, she's going to resent you for goddamn it because he's not seeing you. He's so caught up that she gave him all sorts of meatballs right down the middle. And that's pretty cool. But back to me though. And that's, and as far as I know, Marni, that's not what women want. They don't want to be ignored and not seen and not appreciated. Just sit there and be a mommy therapist to his, big.
Exactly. And if you do resonate with Danielle and you're like, I meet these guys and they tell me they problems, and then I end up coaching them or giving them advice. Like run away. Even if that feels comfortable for you, that was me in the olden days. I think Danielle has her shit together enough to be like, okay, basically I'm talking to you like someone who comes to my support group, but then I'm going to move on to find someone to have love with. Okay. This is the other thing I want to talk about. So on our campus, when we were with people, we talk about filling your funnel, meaning like you're dating other people. You have multiple great people, not 20, but maybe 2, maybe 3 great guys that you're talking to. You're going out on dates. You're choosing your best one. In the context of what's really going on with this Love Island-ish switch, the big switch, these ladies have known these men for like a week, maybe 8 days. When they announced the switch and the amount of tears and hysteria, this idea that they're my guy is so absolutely insano, as my kids would say, insane. And Victoria, who is suddenly now like, the mom to everyone, which also my girl Allie is like, when did Victoria have to be the one to like go calm everyone down and give them pep talks? She's like, hey, it'll be fine. If it isn't, it's fine. And these other ladies are just freaking out. The ones that we have seen who are so fragile, Lace, Jill, Genevieve, losing their absolute shit. So I want to really talk about that because Matthew Hussey once said something I thought was really interesting. It was like, women tend to think that they have some kind of ownership over a guy if they've gone on a date with him, or they have like, been texting him and they're like, he's my guy. Why did he do that? Is he your guy? When is he your guy? When should you be betrayed? Like they're using words like betrayal. Yeah. Talk to me about that. What's the guy point of view on that shit?
I think it happens most of the time when, it's not with the shithead guys or the not top prospects, but I think we have a tendency, especially I think it happens the most when we're in a little bit of dating drought and we meet a guy and then we share something that we think is so deep and personal, and how could you, and we get in these fast forward mental relationships without checking back in and figuring out if that person is as far along away from the shore, the single shore, and into this relationship, into the sea, and just assuming that because they're still talking to you or texting you, and just because you're spending 20 minutes to write the text message, and then he writes back with an okay, sounds cool, whatever. Don't assume it took him 20 minutes to write that sounds cool or okay, and then he's in the same place. And to make that assumption is dangerous. But I also get it though. Hey, it's awkward, and especially in the first couple, 2 or 3 dates, to do it, to really gauge them and figure out where they're at. Also, Marni, I feel like I see a lot of women on women support who quickly kind of band together and like, that's right, just kind of like, yes, woman, that's right. A lot of other single women. I told you, that's women, men can't be trusted. And then they start bashing them and you never know about it.
That's a really important thing because like you really have to look at your tribe, right? And if your tribe is walking in and you're walking into a place and you're like, there's no hot guys. They're like, yeah, this sucks. Let's go, right? You're not with people who are lifting you up, who are inspiring, who are hopeful, who have an abundance mindset, who are excited, who want to like make it happen, have a good time just for themselves. And that, I mean, they could be, you know what, like they don't know, which I don't know how they don't know that there's going to be guys there because they haven't been living in a hole, but they could be like, you know what, we're going to go have fun. We're going to have girl time. We'll get massages. Like if these guys don't understand that we're amazing, then they're not our guys, But it's like, I thought, because the thing is, and this is what's really going to kill your dating life. These ladies are so attached to like, they need to fall in love. They need this guy to be the one because they're in scarcity and they are putting all their eggs in that basket, to use a great Love Island term, right? Like, and so they're hanging on to it, right? And we always talk about like, you have to be engaged and interested, but not attached. The minute you get attached to this one needing to be the one, you are going to start to activate your childhood needs that did not get met, right? So clearly these women were abandoned, betrayed, like they have some hole that they're like, if you love me or pick me, then that means I'm worthy. And it's terrifying. Sad. I mean, it's sad for them.
a good chance, a good time for you to kind of give all the ladies listeners out there a little definition of what it means to be rejection proof. Because at first I heard that term, I was like, oh, that means that, at first it sounds like, oh, okay, nobody will reject me, but that's not it at all. And how to talk about rejection proof and how the Jill, the Genevieves, the loose or not lace aren't showing up as rejection proof, and instead are, like you said, they're just fucking falling apart. And great TV, but
they are. So I talked about this for a minute on the Ryan Seacrest show, but basically rejection proof comes from it's reverse engineered down to basically self-compassion and self-worth, right? So if you're rejection proof, that means you're resilient, which means that to be resilient means that you have so much self-worth that when things happen that don't go your way, you don't take it personally, because deep down, like at the core, you're good and the universe has got your back, even though you can't see it. To have that self-worth, you have to have self-compassion. You can't be saying, what's wrong with me? Why does this always happen to me? Oh my God, I suck. What could I have done? Right? What did I do wrong? And so it's like a backwards funnel, right? So you have to really start with self-compassion and be like, I am enough. I've been through a lot. I might be sad. I might be super bummed out. I might be disappointed. I might be angry at the producers or at Rodney or whatever it is, but I'm a good person.
Yeah.
And I think what Victoria said was like, be here for yourself, because you might at the worst at least have fun. And because these guys here's the thing why they're being so silly. The whole show is set up to be pursued. So you might as well enjoy some guy kissing your ass for a week and trying to flirt with you. Like, enjoy that. Go out and put your makeup on and be in your bikini and be your hot ass self and let these guys fall over you. And then go back.
Yeah.
Like at the worst, right? At the best, maybe actually have a better connection. And so they're not seeing this challenge that they're going through as an opportunity. And that's really what it is, because it's an opportunity on Love Island, but this is really, really an opportunity because you've only gone on like the equivalent of like 5 dates with this guy.
Yeah.
Maybe even 7 dates. So these ladies are just out of control. And by the way, and this does happen sometimes on level, the guys that came in are so good looking. They're better looking than the OG guys. That like freaking like is it Australian? That Thor guy?
Yeah. Oh, that's your type, huh? All right.
Well, I like him, and I love Tyler because I love me a beta guy, and he's like that hot beta guy that was like telling Rachel like, I will just be like support you, love you, like support you in your career. I think there's that they're really great guys there, and the way they're all sulking is really interesting. And I'm going on a monologue here, but this is what I want to ask you. So. When you get in the thing of like, everyone hates me, nobody likes me, guess I'm going to go eat worms. And I put you in a room, and this is what's literally happening. I put you in a room with a bunch of great guys.
Yeah.
You sabotage the opportunity.
Yeah. You're up that. That's what those.
That's what they're doing. They're just sitting in the pool like,
right?
Like they're sabotaging themselves.
Right, not wanting to play. And then the boys are like, come play with us. And in the pool, there was a rich guy and Ola or whatever, like chicken fight. And we're like, no. It's completely away from their fun, flirty, feminine energy and just laying down, eating worms, like you said, bumps on a log, just laying there, crappy, terrible body posture, just defeated. When these beautiful steak dinners are hanging right in front of them, fresh meat, and they're just wanting to, and even, and finally Victoria's like, fuck it. I'll go, I'll play with them. Also, it's kind of worth noting how the gals, I thought it was interesting how, when the new girls walk in, fresh faces, just came out of makeup or whatever, and they're air conditioned, walking on the beach, and the girl's like, oh my God, it's, I'm going to lose him because my makeup's fucking terrible and I'm looking like shit. And look at these girls. How can we compete? Sort of thing. I don't have, which is dumb. Most of them, especially like Victoria said that, and she like looks probably prettier without
But it was funny that Johnny was like, "You look different today," and she's like, "I'm not wearing makeup."
I love that.
I was like, "Victoria, I think you should find someone new."
I like how she goes, and then again, kind of like I thought everyone was leaving and all moping and sad and like defeated, and they're like, "Oh, my man didn't even kiss me goodbye," or say, but the guys were just like, in the end, the women set the tone when the relationship, even this mini little faux relationships on an island, and like and all Victoria said, it was like she said something like, "If you kiss anybody, I'll kill you." Yeah, and then she got
exactly. But they could. But here's the thing, right? They could have. So even on Love Island, when they do cost them more, the women that are and the men that are in relationships, they're still fun. They're showing up. They're playing the game. They're like wingmanning for someone else, right? They're making the opportunity, and these ladies are just wasting the gift of their breath on these days, you know. And they could have also just like been hotter, right, and been like, you know, good luck, you know, have fun finding someone as awesome as me, like, right?
Dude, or at the very fucking least, if you're so you believe it in your heart and soul, Genevieve or Lacey, that this is the man of your dreams, then make a friend. There's nothing wrong with it. Make a goddamn friend. You don't have to just because you're in a relationship. It's not hot. You want Jeremy to make friends. I do. Just make a goddamn friend and go talk to them. And you know what? I don't know. Get advice on dating, or who knows? Talk to a guy.
Exactly. Okay. So anyway, ladies, don't be the sad sop in the bar. Every opportunity, every challenge can be an opportunity. You don't own a guy because you've gone on like 5 dates with him. Fill your funnel. That's more attractive. It's amazing. Okay, let's talk. Oh my God. Should you ever chase your man down? Okay, this is not allowed on Love Island. So that was just ridiculous. Lace is like, I'm going to go find my guy. This is the equivalent. So I think I've told this story before, but I read this. I might have actually had someone that I interviewed on the podcast tell me this story. A woman was dating a guy for like 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And did I tell you this story?
No, I don't think so.
They were supposed to meet up or I don't know, make a plan or whatever. And it's like a Thursday night. And she texts him and she's like, hey, I'm just following up about tomorrow or whatever. And, you know, he doesn't answer. And then and 2 hours later, she's like, hey, you know, like, you know, I just wanted to make sure I'm trying to make my plans for tomorrow. Like, what's up? And then like an hour later, she's like, super weird that you're not answering me. Where are you? Question mark. 30 minutes later. I mean, are you just blowing me off intentionally? Okay. He did this all night long.
Oh no.
The guy had left he didn't answer the whole night. He had left his phone at the bar. He went back to get it the next day. And there were like 70 messages. At the end, she was like, and by the way, don't ever call me again.
We're done. Yeah.
Do not chase your man. Like if you're Rodney and you walk in and she's there, that has sealed the deal. Any doubt that you were like, maybe she is my person, it has been closed, done and dusted. So what do you think? Like, what does it feel like when you're on the other end and you're being chased down? Do you like me? Do you like me? Do you love me the most?
So scary. And God, I was so nervous by the way. I was like, producers, don't. There's this. They love just starting shit. I was like, and picking like and Rodney. What's the girl he's on a date with? She's so
Eliza.
By the way, 1,000 times more feminine, better, less crazy, sweet, right? And I knew. I was like, what are you doing, bro? At the first time when he pairing up with her, but it's neither here nor there. Maybe she was the best that he had at the time, but. Yeah, it's such an and I've had similar things like you were talking about your friend, where I disappeared and the woman just went bananas on me, thinking that she wanted to be chased. And I think maybe that's where it gets so confusing. She wanted to be chased. So I thought she was, doing the golden rule versus the platinum rule. Again, I don't want to, what did I want? And I think she thought, well, and then she was so extra fucking confused and angry when I didn't respond. Like, oh, thank you for stalking me and giving me 78 text messages to show me how much you care about me. I wasn't sure. No, instead, it's so overwhelming. It's so scary. Ladies, don't do it. And don't convince yourself that you're doing it because, I don't know, because you're worried about him or safety, or maybe he's in a hospital or your brain go on that crazy train of how it's not really due to your insecurities and your, give your phone to your friend or something, lock it away. Don't do it. One or two, maybe 2 text messages max. And
if you don't get an answer, do not respond. And definitely don't do the drive-bys, and when I was the crazy ex-girlfriend, I fully did drive-bys on Johnny Locke's house. Yeah, of course. I was insane, right? Because I was literally not in my right mind. So I get it. I'm not sitting here from my queen chair being like, how could you do that? I did it.
Was he home?
Why do you think I started? No, he was not home.
In the bathroom with a bedroom, like, that mother fires with another woman.
I drove by and literally, look, here's the thing. The reason I called my business Dating with Dignity is because when I got my shit together, I realized I had no fucking dignity. Lace right now coming down to the beach, no self-respect, no dignity. There is no dignity in that. And that is really the reason why I called the business Dating with Dignity, is because she lost it. They all have lost it. Not all of them, but all of these women wake up the next day, watch this back. There's no way you can be like, wow, that was my best self.
Totally. And I think, ladies, listeners, if you're like, oh, whatever, that's just Chris Gillis that's one data point. Guys probably don't hate it that much. Ladies, watch it back. Look at the faces of those 6 dudes when she walks down there. It's like a fucking bunch of 3-year-olds learning how to talk. They are flooded. They don't know what to do. Their brains are hot wiring. They all take turns filling in one complete sentence with a word here or there to make one congruent thought. Like, that what he said. Oh, no, that what he said. And then she'd ask them a fucking point question. They couldn't even answer it. It's never going to turn out good. We're never going to be able to communicate well. We're going to just probably get angry because we're going to have feeling something. We're so uncomfortable with feeling that we're going to react with anger or silence, which is going to make you more mad. And then we'll eventually react mad. So don't do it.
And Rodney's just basically, next week we have to see how it unfolds, but basically he's just gonna be like, I have to get through this shit. So I'm not, and it'll be like, thank God I didn't stay with this person. And I think what I thought was actually, I had a lot of, I think I'll probably remember this for a long time. These guys are so afraid and they feel bad. Like they know that this is hard. You know what I really loved? And I don't know who said it because I don't think they had it on camera, but I just heard a voice. He was like, come on, sit down. And because she's walking in and they're all like, why are you here? It's like that moment in high school where you walk in and the cool kids are like having a party and they look at you and they're like, why are you here? Like, how did you get invited? And it was just sinking. And I really just have to call out that was a very chivalrous, kind thing to be like, hey, sit down, to try and be inclusive when that's the last thing they wanted. But they didn't. Whoever said that, I just have to give a lot of props because that would have been work. They were trying to make her feel less isolated and more belonging, because being that person who's standing outside of the circle, that's a sad place to be.
Totally. On a little related note, I don't know if you were going to get to this, but I think it's worth mentioning. It's interesting little plot point is how the episode starts off, or last week's or the day before, when they get the girls get swept away and the women are they're bawling and they're, like you said, they're laying down eating worms, thinking their men are just having these orgies and just going crazy, and just to really see how much the guys are struggling, and they have no idea what's going on. They're just struggling and feeling so guilty about dating other women, because they do have that connection. So I think that's just a good little nod to think that, kind of like we're talking about earlier, is don't assume that, yes, he may not be as far along on in the middle of the sea in relationship, island where you think you're almost to long-term relationship island, but don't discredit how much effort it took him out there and how much he's still, just because he's not there, it doesn't mean he doesn't care about you. It doesn't mean your feelings aren't, he's not considering them, and that he's conflicted. As you see those guys, they're good dudes. You see Andrew struggling with it. Even, Logan, who we all thought was, he's a piece of shit from the last season or whatever. The guys are they're yes, guys are guys, but they're just because their feeling is overwhelm them with, if you overwhelm them with their anger and whatnot, then yes, then they're going to get defensive. And yes, the truth is, yes, maybe they're not as invested in you. But as far as guy language and as far as we go, maybe our rubber band is pretty much equally stretched out and is tense. And those dudes are tense, and you felt so sad for it. And then, of course, it was awesome. They did the juxtaposition and flipped the camera back, and a couple of the girls, and Sinead's fucking straddling dudes and trying to get boom boom whatever. So
it goes both ways. Okay, last thing before we wrap, I just want to make sure we talk about this whole thing with Casey. This was like at the beginning of Monday, but this guy, Casey, finds out some information about Brittany that, another guy is spreading rumors. And what I didn't like so I think there are two issues. One is like, yes, you want to tell somebody in certain contexts, like, yes, this person doesn't have your best intention. What I didn't like about it, and this, if you're not watching, what happens is like someone's talking shit. He wants this girl to like him. So he's like, oh, my strategy is I'm going to give you information about something that you're going to want to know, and then you'll find favor with me. And if you've ever watched an episode of this franchise in your whole life, being the snitch is not the way to a woman or a guy's heart. And that is what happened, right? He's hoping she's gonna be like, oh, thanks, Casey, I love you. No, she's like, he said, what? And then it starts a whole drama. He passes out, he breaks his foot, he gets escorted off. But I just think it's a really important thing to understand that when we talk about creating connection through vulnerability, like that is not vulnerable. Like, like I have some bad news, I want to give you some information that, there is no association of like, if you give me this information, then that helps create a connection. So just don't do it. I can't really think of an exact example in real life. But just don't ever do anything like that. It's not your job, to do that if your intention is to get something out of it. If he wanted to do it because he was like, hey, I'm probably going to go home tonight, and so is this guy, he's a bad guy, he's talking shit about you, he could have done that. Did he need to do it? Nah. Because in reality, she would have watched the show and she would have been like, wow, that Peter guy's a real asshole. Period. So you don't need to share that information.
I think I kind of, maybe we're getting closer to say that some of it said that the tears do not equal vulnerability. I know a lot of it, just because either you're crying or you say something that's going to make somebody else cry or what, that's not being vulnerable. And then, I think I'd like to unpack a little what you said a second ago. I fully understand, especially Brittany with her history of, people saying mean rumors about her. And so her, wanting to defend her honor. But I think, Marni, that if a person is living with dignity, trademark, and self-love, and you're dating somebody and he's a piece of shit, and he's, one of those guys who badmouths you, well, how he is dating you is how he is at work, is how he is with his friends, how he's with everywhere. And it's not your job to either snitch on them or it's pointless. The dude didn't, if you lay into them and rip them apart, you think he hasn't heard this, a million times. So what's your millionth and one doing? You're just validating and spending more time and putting yourself in that shitty aura with them. So I think I know sometimes, girls like, I got to get that last word. I got to set it straight. If you feel like you have to do something because, I don't know, otherwise people are going to think that about you, then no, then maybe, you're not really living in integrity. If you're really worried they're going to believe some person who lives so far out of integrity, who nobody can stand, especially they showed it on this particular show. And if you date that guy, he really is a scumbag. Don't waste your time. Move on.
Yeah, you can't win. You can't win with someone like that. And so it's just like, be the person you want to attract. You don't need to talk about it. I also like, and we saw this on, oh my God, what was the show that we watched last summer or spring where they were in a relationship and then they dated other people?
The ultimatum.
The ultimatum. We had that whole like girl gang situation where those girls go to Peter Pizza and they all are like 4 women being like, "You're an asshole." Like, let us tell, right? I mean, not that you would ever do that in real life, ladies, but God, it's just such a bad look. Don't do that. And then the guys come in, they're like, "Hey, yeah, Peter, you need to leave." That's like, leave your schoolyard drama on the schoolyard. None of it's attractive. I think really, and we have to wrap this up, but what I want to say is this. This is a great example of what it looks like to date and try to cultivate relationships when the part of your brain is driving the show is like your ego self that is unresolved, unhealed. It shows to me, because I just did this whole 3-day Ignite Your Life, and one of the sessions was about how if you don't get your childhood needs met, you will continue to try and play this out in all your relationships. And so you have like a 7-year-old dating. And that's what we're seeing now, mostly. Not all of them. Danielle, Victoria. There's some people who seem to have their shit together a little bit. But it's not gonna work. And then when people ask me, Chris, like, where are all the good men? And they have all these issues. And I say to them, literally on calls, if I had the key to the island where the quality guys were, and you don't resolve these core issues, and I literally put you in a room with them, do you really think you're going to be able to see it through? And this little switch and putting these girls in these situations with these other men and just watching everything blow apart is just like the proof. Wherever you go, there you are. You have to deal with your shit.
I love it. No, it couldn't be more apropos. Yeah, you'll still have your blinders on before you get it. And it's easy to say, oh, I blame it on that it's darkness outside. But no, if you keep wearing your crazy, shitty, what's the opposite of rose-colored? Yeah, poop-colored shades.
Poop-colored glasses.
Eating your worms when you're laying down, and that's all you're going to see, the mouthful of worms and darkness everywhere.
That's so sad. And so we must wrap for now. And next week we have more excitement in the, someone called it Casa a no. the big switch on the Bachelor in Paradise franchise. We will see what happens. Chris, as always, I love you. I'm so glad I got to hang out with you and hug you when I was in LA. And thanks for coming to Ignite Your Life. You crushed.
Thank you, babe. That was so fun.
I love you. Ladies, oh Lord. I mean, this episode is ripe with, like, do you have this symptom? Do you have this? Do you do this? Do you do this? Freaking life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP. That's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to dwdvip.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.